Let's do it. Good evening, calling to order the Historic Preservation Commission meeting for November 10th, 2022, opening up the meeting at 7 o'clock p.m. I'd like to ask for us to conduct the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Walker, would you mind conducting this pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And thank you, veterans, for protecting our land.
Yes, thank you. As we are just in advance of honoring that day tomorrow and honoring our veterans, thank you for everyone for their service. All right. I would like to ask you to conduct a roll call, please.
Okay. Taking roll call for tonight's meeting. Ward.
Yes, here.
Walker.
Here.
Lemaster.
Here.
Benoit.
Here.
And Chair Lebret.
Here.
All right, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Deputy Clerk Peck. Do we have any citizen comments on the sign-in sheet? Do we have anyone that's wishing to make any
We
comments?
do have one person signed in, Cheryl Cease. And you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Seward Historic Preservation Commission. Good evening, Chair Lebret, Vice Chair Ward, Director Saylor, Clerk Peck. So I'm here for a positive reason and a challenging reason. So my positive reason is to be thankful openly for the award that I received on Monday, because we've been, dealing with personal medical issues. That, we also are grateful for the award that Gary received. We were nominated for an award for both of us for serving the community, which I did try to withdraw from the week following that vote. And I shared that with Ms. Benoit, Commissioner Benoit. And it turned out that the only way that I could do that was to wait until you reconvened in the fall and then come before you and ask you to vote to take that away from us. And I was told on Monday that it was too late. Now, the other nomination, besides the nomination for, our commission, those of us that started and finished our CLG grant, was for Commissioner Benoit. And I was a no vote on that because I believed that it was not a quantifiable award, that if we were going to have it, it needed to be for the people that worked on it in the beginning and went all the way through to the end. In reflection, I think that Chair Lebret was correct, that the thank you sign that we have at the library was adequate. And I also believe that Ms. Benoit, Commissioner Benoit, in, I guess, December, we'll get the notice. We'll talk about the notice in December. It'll be posted in January, although we'd like it to be posted in December so we don't have to do what we did this year, which was move it by a month. Anyway, I think that would be good as a citizen. And I got 9 seconds left. And I just want to thank you for listening, and I want to thank you for serving. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Thank you for that, Ms. Cease, and thank you for all your service on the commission as well. We have a approval of agenda and consent agenda before us. Is that correct?
Okay, that is correct. So we are about to take a vote on the approval of the agenda and the consent agenda. Walker,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Benoit,
Yes.
Lemaster,
Yes.
and Chair LeBrecq.
Yes.
Okay, the agenda and consent agenda have been approved. And on the consent agenda is the approval of the October 13th, 2022 Historic Preservation Regular Meeting Minutes.
We need to vote on those, is that correct?
No, it's,
All good?
it was just approved. in
It's
that
approved,
way.
we're done. Okay. All right, can we move on to, I have one point of question regarding citizen comments previously. Is there any need to discuss those comments, or what is the proper procedural thing? Is there a response needed to those comments, or is that just comments?
You can have a discussion right now on that if you'd like.
I have a question, a point for clarification. Ms. Cease, that you brought something up to us, but are you asking for specific action of the
No,
commission tonight,
I
or is
am
it
not.
just a comment?
No,
Okay.
it was simply a personal review, and I just wanted to share it.
Thank you. And again, I'll thank you for your service and tell you that however we may or may not have decided who should or shouldn't be emeritus of thank yous, I can tell you that we all were probably emeritus of thank yous, including yourself. So
Amen.
however we choose to take that, amen. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right, so special orders, presentations, and reports. Do we have a city administration report?
No.
None at all? Okay. And I do not have a chair report, other than just to report that previous to this session, that we did hold a session to discuss our priorities for this year. And the purpose of this particular meeting is to approve those priorities as well. And I don't know if it's the proper time or not, but just to say thank you to Vice Chair Ward and to Director Saylor for helping do that follow-up from the last meeting and taking that grid and creating a grid that will lead us forward into this year for our priorities. So that is what we've been working on. We're trying to not only have some purpose to how we're holding these meetings, but also to define how many meetings we're going to have a year, with the exception of when we need to have special meetings to address specific things. And that we did start with the premise of what we were engendered to do by the city council. We were directed to do certain specific things as to the charter of why our commission was created, and that is what we used to come up with our priorities. So that's my report as far as what we've done so far. Any other reports or announcements? Report on historic preservation Facebook page, Commissioner Benoit.
Let's see. In September, we put out 2 posts. One was about St. Peter's Church. It had 12 engagements and a few comments, mainly regarding the church needing a lot of restorative work, and some questions people had about whether they could visit the church. The other post was on some heritage tourism information, which had 3 engagements. In total, we reached about 226 people, which was down about 43%. I think that just because we've had a little bit of a lapse, and consistency is important with Facebook, because if you don't put anything for a while, people tend to not.
To drift.
Yeah. We had 34 engagements, 15 likes, 2 comments. We had some posts that were planned for October, but this didn't go out. I saw that they just started to go out at the beginning of this month, so I think they just got delayed and probably will end up going out with all of the November posts, and then things will be on schedule. And if not, then everything will just move back an extra month. And that is all I have on that, unless people have anything they can think of that needs to go out beyond what's already been scheduled out for 6
Enjoy
months.
what's popping up. It's good.
Okay.
Reporting on CLG 2005, I don't 20005, I don't believe there's anything new other than what we've discussed as far as
Which
the
is
new
the
developments.
decal,
Just the decal,
yeah.
which we've discussed as well, which you can refer back to the work session that just happened a few minutes ago. If you have a question, thank you for that, and thank you for Rotary support in
Just
helping
a
us
note
do
from
that.
the clerk, would you like to provide a summary of what was discussed in the work session, just to make it official for
Certainly.
the regular meeting?
Basically, we have created some decals that are going up at the library, to the left of the front door, and also at the Chamber of Commerce. And basically, it is a decal on the window that is saying, hey, you can download this historic walking tour map on your phone by holding it up to this barcode. And in doing so, you are saving paper and helping to protect the environment. And this is kind of a partnership. It is being paid for, or has been paid for, by Rotary. It was kind of an idea, a brainstorm that Colleen Kelly and I had. And basically, it's a partnership with the library and museum and Rotary, Resurrection Bay Historical Society, Seward Community Library Association, all the people in the building. And yeah, so I really appreciate everybody's support in wanting to help protect the environment, and Rotary's support for making it happen and paying for it. And hopefully it'll make a big difference in the future in terms of saving money on these maps and helping to protect the environment, reducing litter, et cetera, et cetera. So
And these are available at the library window and the Chamber of Commerce window?
at the Chamber of Commerce window, and the one at the library hasn't been put up yet, but I'm thinking it's going to be in the next 2 days or so.
Oh, okay.
Next couple days, so. Next time you go, check it out.
Thank you for that clarification. I encourage everybody to do that walking tour. Thank you very much. Now, moving on to the report on USS Alaska, and Commissioner LeMaster, could you take us through that? I see we have a laydown here regarding that.
Yeah, and I'll just hit the high points. The USS Alaska is a submarine. It's been in service now for, let's see, 36 years. But I met with two veterans that had served aboard this ship. That was back in September 14th. And they would like to have a memorial for this submarine here in Seward. So that's what I listened, they talked. The idea has been around for a while. What they're looking at now is not a model of the ship, because it's about 2 blocks long, but it would be the conning tower, or what they call the sail, and that's what the scope is. But the intent of my memo is just to communicate to you all by way of information.
Keep us in the loop.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So clarifying that action plans for us would be just to have ongoing discussions between now and April 2023, when they return to present options, pros and cons, etc., community feedback. I did note the specific thing that a similar project in Phoenix, Arizona is costing $2.5 million. They would not be looking to us necessarily to support financially, but to support what? What are they asking of us specifically? Is what's not real clear to me.
I think at this point it's an idea. It's in the concept stage still.
And it's 10 years out, is that correct?
Well, it's scheduled to be decommissioned in 10 years, but these things have a way of being extended. So, you know, we in all honesty, we don't know it. It could be 15 or 20 years before parts of the boat are actually available. But in concept, it may be more cost effective to build something, a replica of the conning tower, right?
Than that, a real deal.
I understood this group had some funding. At least that was in the initial conversations, whether that's true or not, but that was my understanding, that there was some funding source.
There, I don't know, that didn't come up.
Okay,
But
that's,
they're looking for funding.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
that they, yeah, that they had some source. But I think it's gone through several different changes as this has progressed.
Yeah, these two fellows are second generation on this concept. Yeah.
Where would you think about putting it?
Well, good question. It's open for discussion. One idea would be to put it along the bike path. Out near the harbor.
How long would it be?
Well, if it turns out to be just the conning tower, it would take a plot about 60 by 60 feet.
Is that much available on the bike?
I know, I was just thinking, probably not. But that's for a discussion down the road, I think. Let's see where they go with this.
So they came to us because we're Historic Preservation Commission, and you had a meeting with them, and then you're just letting us know of impending discussions that may occur with this.
Yeah, it's, I talked to it's been a year or two, I talked to the first group, and this is which, you know, to build a replica or part of that submarine 2 blocks long is, in my view, not feasible. Right, but so the scope's changing, and these two guys are the 2 point guys, if you will.
You'll just keep us informed.
So I think my idea here or thought is to keep track, be the point man, and then communicate to you guys where the project is.
And down the road, if there's any action required by us. Which
That
I'm not-
seems reasonable to keep it on our radar,
Just
like
on
we do
the
some other
fringe,
things.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Any other questions?
So I was just gonna let y'all know that we are working with them as well at the library to do a small, they're supposed to send us a model.
Oh,
And we're
cool.
gonna be putting
Oh,
that
cool.
in the library, so in the atrium, so when you walk in, there's a small one. So we're working with them to do that next summer.
That's great. I like it. All right, thank you. Moving on to new business, other new business items to approve the October 13th, 2022 regular meeting minutes. So we would need to take a look at those.
No, we've already done
They're
that.
done? So you're finished, that's what I thought, but
Yeah.
pops back up, okay. So possible proposal for helping write a grant for St. Peter's. We're right back, Commissioner Lemaster, on this discussion. So I think you just floated that as a potential. And again, as we discussed, while we're not taking on any CLG grants or any grants, we would specifically ask for that or take that on. It may fall within the scope of what we want to do, kind of like the discussions that we've had earlier in helping other buildings, Zudi's or Railroad Depot, those type of things. We've talked about the fact that it may be a priority for us to help other people find funding or facilitate. But I think that we'd like to just propose looking at assisting St. Peter's for a grant if they have the capacity, the wherewithal, and the contacts. So have you had any contact with them since the initial idea?
I talked to, well, by phone, a text, Charles Taylor and Valerie Rose.
Church wardens.
Yeah, and the plan is that we'll get together and meet. My thought is to volunteer to help them, separate and apart from HP. And then keep you guys in the loop as to what's happening.
I appreciate that. Again, that speaks to the library that we're talking about developing, and then us just having discussions with folks. We can point them to some successful projects that have happened. Like you were talking about down at Zudi's, our properties, many properties around town, I think, that have gone through successful proposals, and they could even just have conversations with those folks, ask them how they went about and did it, so.
Yeah.
I know Iris Darling has
And
got
Iris
some, and
Darling,
you've
yep,
got some
that's right.
successful proposals that maybe we can get copies of that would help. Although I think they need, they're looking, they have serious need in that trip.
Yeah, and we'll see how it develops, but my thought is to, usually they need someone to do the work of preparing. You know.
Right, to focus and
Yeah.
get the actual thing.
Yeah, yeah. But it would be for them, under them, if that makes sense.
Right.
Right.
I think that it does speak within our own, what we've been tasked to do as it relates to historical buildings, and particularly things that help with historic tourism, as well as just preserving those buildings which are considered really to be iconic in Seward. So I can speak for myself, but I would imagine that there are probably other commissioners that would agree that St. Peter's is a building that is important enough to this city to assist in some way, shape, or form. It's just we have limited capacity with the number of members that we have and so on, but I think we have expertise that we could offer.
Yeah. If you want to coordinate that,
Yeah.
I would certainly do that.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, and then number 3 is 2023 Historic Preservation Commission priorities and meeting schedule. And we discussed that during our work session. Is it necessary that we then summarize what we came up with at this point in time, or no?
It might not be a bad idea to provide a summary, and we could even take a vote on it if you'd like to
Yeah.
really make it official.
That's what I would do, is just kind of summarize this and then ask for a motion.
We'll need a motion and a second, and then I call for a vote.
Okay, and I'm going to summarize. So if I understand correctly, since these materials went out beforehand, they're publicly available, correct? So we don't need to go through them in tremendous detail.
Correct.
Okay, so in the work session that we had previously, we went over the 2022 Historic Preservation Commission priorities and meeting schedule. We had asked Vice Chair Ward and Director Saylor to put this document together, and it is based specifically on what we've been tasked to do as a Historic Preservation Commission, and we just wanted to lay it out in a way that would put this in a reasonable number of meetings. Our plan is currently to have 4 meetings a year. We will have, those are regular scheduled meetings with a work session to proceed. We can have additional special meetings, committees of the whole, if we need to follow up on these specific items. What we're proposing is to have meetings in January, April, and then August and November. Per our charter, we have to have at least 2 meetings a year. We actually, per our last meeting, proposed that we have 1 meeting a quarter. We're proposing that in January of each year, we brainstorm certified local government grant ideas, develop our yearly calendar for grants, begin public noticing for HP award nominations, and edit guidelines. The purpose and priorities of this business is to enhance and educate on historic preservation. We then would follow up that work session with a meeting to approve those resolutions for the 2022 priorities, and then we would also review and update a draft of Stewards Day proclamations and plan a joint work session with council. In April, we would have a work session which would be to discuss and approve a plan for national historic preservation, because May being Historic Preservation Month, we would discuss historic overlay plans. We would also discuss Founders Day in collaboration possibly with RBHS, and to advance historic overlay to P&Z. We would discuss potential certified local government grants from the previous meetings, review HP award nominations, and vote on winners. Our meeting would then focus on carrying out planned National HP Month activities and HP awards presented by council in May. And then at the meeting, we would also vote on chair and VP, because in May would be the end of our current terms. we would have priority of planning Founder's Day's activities and advancing the historic overlay, supporting Hoban Park flowers, and writing report to council and historic overlay. These first two meetings, again, as I go through this, these are just to make sure that we're transferring over all the responsibility we have. We do not have to take on each and every single one of these. We may get to a meeting, have this agenda which has been written because of this actual thing, may have items on here that may have no action if that's something we don't choose to take on. But we are at least addressing all the responsibilities by having this laid out in advance. We would then move on to our August meeting where we would have a work session to research structures, sites, promote, and nominate to the Seward local register as opposed to the National Register. We would talk about our grant library creation, which we've discussed a little bit about being a resource for folks wanting to have historical properties with grants. And then we would look at a 2017 historic preservation plan, which is the most recent plan, the historic overlay and brainstorm 2022 projects. This is all in the work session. The meeting would then review and update draft of Founder's Day proclamation for the August council meeting. A little reminder here that we put for ourselves that CLG grants are due in October, so we make sure that we make those deadlines. Our priorities for the August meeting is to develop the plan to update 2017 HP plan, to discuss Founder's Day activity for August 28th, to award structures and sites to Seward Local Register, and to prepare the written report to council. We would then move on to November, where a work session would be to educate the public on historical and economic value of historic places and buildings, and to review annual results versus priorities, schedule annual report to council, and the annual priority list for January. The priorities being to present the historic overlay to council, create annual review and priorities list for 2023. A little note on ongoing tasks and projects, again, that match up against our priorities and what we are supposed to do, which is to generate ideas and set priorities for new CLG grants, if we so wish, to continue Seward Historic Preservation online presence through Facebook, to monitor historic properties and make recommendations as appropriate, to have verbal and or written reports to council quarterly, to discuss the Jesse Lee Memorial, which again is actually part of our stated responsibilities, is to keep up with that, and the Jesse Lee Memorial is part of our responsibility as well as a park setting. To discuss USS Alaska, which we just discussed recently, is an ongoing thing. To also discuss residential historic zoning boundaries, which is also part of what you see in our responsibilities. And again, as we discussed a little bit earlier, not our role to encumber in any way, shape, or form economic development, but just to provide some context for preserving historic properties, looking at zoning and all those type of things, and having a discussion. We had also discussed it would make sense for us to have an actual liaison to liaise with planning and zoning so that we're working together and pulling in the same direction. We thought that that was part of our ongoing priorities as well too, is possibly having a liaison directly to PNC. That is what we discussed in the session, and what we want to vote on actually today is whether those 4 meetings, so the first thing is whether we have 4 meetings, and if those priorities meet our needs. Again, keeping in mind that how does the work get done? The work gets done by deciding to have a special meeting the month previous or a couple weeks previous or whatever it would be to prepare for each of those meetings and those tasks. But that would accomplish us meeting what's been set forth before us. Any discussion? All right, can we call for a vote?
And
Motion.
a motion and a second.
I move that we have 4 meetings a year and that we follow the guidelines or the grid, I don't know what you want to call it, that outline our responsibilities for each meeting and work session.
I'll second it.
Clean that up a little bit.
Okay, so taking a vote on the 2023 Historic Preservation Commission priorities and meeting schedule as discussed. Lemaster,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Benoit,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
and Chair LeBrecq.
Yes.
Okay, that meeting schedule and priorities have been approved.
Thank you.
The only other discussion I would want to have then is do we want to keep the second Thursday of every month so that our next meeting would be January? No.
No, okay, that's right.
Not unless we call a special meeting. Our
If
next
we call a
meeting would be
special meeting, it
January.
would be, I was just going to say, so let's make it official, it'll be January, whatever, we want to keep the second Thursday of every month, like we currently meet, it would be January 12th, 2023 will be our next meeting,
Fine for
unless
me.
there's a special meeting called for some reason.
January 12th?
Yep. That would be fine for me. And again, just to give you an idea again of how this works, that would mean if we have in January brainstorming CLG grant ideas, HP award nominations, and historic overlay, if we needed to have a meeting beforehand, some notice we would call a meeting. Like you said, we could have either 24-hour notice for a special meeting, or we could have a planned meeting, and all the documents would go out to the public beforehand, and we would be in preparation for these things in January. But that is what's currently on the.
So we'd have a work session at 6 and a meeting at 7 on January 12th, 2023.
And we would call any special meetings that we need to discuss those things beforehand. if
Yep.
needed. All right. So there's a vote. We're done.
Okay. The next item is informational items and reports, which there are none. And then just a note on the next round of citizen comments, these are 5 minutes instead of 3 minutes if anyone wishes to speak in the audience.
Thank you. Wow, 4 meetings a year, special meetings as you need them. Wow. And so far, I am like blown away. You guys are awesome. I mean, awesome. And Clerk Peck, I want to commend you for bringing in a part of the work session into the regular meeting so that that's recorded. I was going to suggest to the commission that commissioners keep their work session packets because it's not in legislative history. And should you have to go back and, look at something that you have to defend or, timelines, a lot of times they're in the work session, but they're not in the regular meeting packet. Let me see. St. Peter's, my comment would be, the Episcopalian religion or whatever it's called. I grew up in the Episcopal Church. I don't even know. All I know is that nationally, and in fact internationally, they have a lot of money. So I think I will personally maybe look into that as a citizen. Great job, Commissioner Lemaster, on the USS Alaska. Just a thought. Of course, that discussion took place before Director Saylor pointed out that there's going to be a small model at the library in the atrium, which is really cool. So that takes care of a model, I think. And perhaps a memorial could be put out on the jetty where the Mariners Memorial is. That would be near the port. And we have parades all the time in our community. And I realize that Veterans Day being November 11th can be cold and can be miserable and, can be difficult. But if it's poor weather, perhaps, it could be just like, you're in your vehicles and you're driving through, and I know that there was a Safeway employee that everybody loved. And when he died, there were 2 cars, point people, and they handed out these cool little candle things that changed colors. And it was the winter, and all the citizens who loved him and shopped at Safeway drove around the city with our little lights in our cars, staying warm. So that might be an idea. Seward was a place and remains a place of history for the Army during World War II. And in fact, they were the last group in the Jesse Lee home. Let's see, what else? Okay. So, the old warehouse that the city uses out by the cemetery is going to be demolished at some point. I'd like to recommend that your commission protect some of the pieces of the physical building for a memorial. and that you stay on top of it so that what happened with the Jesse Lee building does not happen to that one. Unfortunately, the Jesse Lee was not, in its demolition, was not handled as it should have been. People came and said, well, you know, what are you doing with this? And the guys that were working said, well, we're just taking stuff to the dump. You can have whatever you want. At my last meeting with Jason Bickling, he informed me that, you know, there were 2 memorial benches that, you know, he thought were somewhere made out of one of the beams that was cut up. And our commission was never, ever invited into that process. And as Chair LeBrecq has pointed out, and I know you all agree, our history is important, and that stood for years. And every ship that came into Resurrection Bay, and the head of that bay saw that building. And it's no more. So I would still like to suggest that the memorial be like a gazebo, but have it be protected, so that people can go in foul weather. Well, is it 5 minutes already?
That was 5 minutes.
Okay, and just repeat do the same thing you did with the CLG walking tour. Inside this gazebo, your signs being like the windows to prevent the weather, to tell the Jesse Lee home story. It's way more than Benny Benson. And with that, I will thank you for allowing me this time, and your service.
Thank you for your comments. All right. Any commissioner or administration comments and responses to comments at this time? I said thank you.
Well, I think that's what you need, you know, on behalf of the commission.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for the comments and thank you for being our new chair.
Yay.
New vice chair.
May I make one more, please? Would that be allowable?
I'll direct that question to the chair.
Certainly.
Chair? Chair LeBrecq. I would like to see, since the meetings are going to be reduced, that the Facebook page be updated and taken care of weekly. If you're going to have 4 meetings a year and call special meetings as needed, your presence still needs to be in our community.
Well, thanks for that comment.
Let's share the workload, because I know as president of Rotary, President Benoit, you may not have the time to do that. I don't have the technical capability, but I would be willing.
Appreciate it. Thank you for the comments. And I think that by setting the framework that we have, we'll have plenty of work created for ourselves and still accomplish everything that we need to do. So I suspect we'll have more than 4 meetings, but we're only compelled to have 2. So we're already double that,
Right.
and I'm sure we'll have meetings as we need to while keeping it reasonable. I think part of what I would like to see with this commission is for us to fill all these seats and to keep them full and to keep retention of commissioners with a reasonable meeting and a reasonable amount of work. So we're just trying to keep that in mind while maintaining a real presence as well too with meaningful projects. Kind of like the CLG grant that we just all got done. So, any other comments?
I have a comment. It would be to you, Director Saylor. I was just wondering if, now that we've had this, our document approved, when you get back in 3 weeks, whatever, we get together and let's clean it up and make it pretty. Make it, I mean, that was kind of our initial draft, but I'm happy to get together and have more coffee. And we'll make it official. I don't know if we need to put it on letterhead, but make it official and in such a way that, we can share it.
Maybe it's something we can have out at these meetings, maybe,
Right.
a little poster board or something,
Yeah.
so we can remind ourselves of what our priorities are and kind of checklists.
I just saw some cleanup things, pretty it up a little bit, but I didn't want to put a lot of effort into that until it was run by the commission.
Got something done.
So when you get back, at your convenience, we'll get together.
Awesome. I like it. I just want to say thank you to everybody for being part of this process, and thank you again, Vice Chair Ward and Ms. Saylor, for putting that document together. I feel like we have some direction and for what each of you does, whether it's webpage or whether it's meeting with these folks for ongoing projects, USS Alaska, and Commissioner Walker, thank you for being here, and to our citizens as well for comments. Thank you, Ms. Cease, and thank you for your past leadership. I have nothing else to add unless anyone else has comments. Hearing none, I would call to adjourn this meeting at 7:41 p.m.
There you go.